I'm Sasha of Saw Sews, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to do a full bust adjustment on the Adelphi top. This top was drafted and designed on my body, and as you can see, I have a smaller chest. Have a look at the instructions to help determine if you need a full bust adjustment, but if you have a larger chest than me, chances are you're going to need one. So this is my sister Lena in a size 14 with a full bust adjustment. This is the final garment that is the result of all the steps taken in this video. So let's get into it. The most important measurement to start is the upper bust measurement. So I'm going to show you how to take that on Lena. You take the soft tape around the back. Lena can drop her arms, and you want it snug in the armpits, across the chest, above the bust. You don't want it tight so that it's compressing the body. You want it just sitting comfortably right here. If Lena turns, you can see that it's not totally parallel to the ground level. That's okay. It can drop a little bit lower in the back and then comes around and sits higher on the front. So that gets Lena's upper bust at about 41 inches. The next measurement is the bust measurement. At the widest part of the bust, with the tape parallel to the ground, 45 inches. The next measurement is the waist measurement. Go around the smallest part of the waist. That puts Lena at about 37 inches. And then we're going to measure the apex height. So the point of the apex height is to get the exact measurement of the pleat. You want the pleat to be on your tummy and kind of come up and end right at the point where your bust connects to your torso. So that's where that pleat occurs, and then it opens up at your bust. So I'm going to take my tape to Lena's apex, which is the part that protrudes the most. Come down, following the curve of the body to where it hits her torso, which has her at about 4 inches. To review Lena's measurements, we have 41 inches for the upper bust, 37 inches for the waist, and 45 inches for the bust. Now, the most important measurement when selecting your size is the upper bust. So the size that corresponds most closely with Lena's upper bust is size 14. So that's going to be Lena's starting size. Then the next thing you're going to do after determining your starting size is you're going to see what the bust measurement is for the starting size. So the bust measurement on size 14 is 41.7 inches. From there, you're going to subtract 41.7, which is the starting size bust, from your bust for Lena 45, which gets you 3.3 inches. Then, because this is going to be split across 2 bust pleats, you're going to divide this in 2, which gets you 1 2/3 inch. And that equals distance X. So now I'm going to gather the tools that I need to do the full bust adjustment. I have paper cutting scissors, I have a straight edge, I have pattern making paper, I have a colored marker, tape, and piece A cut out in my starting size. So the first step in modifying the A piece for the full bust adjustment is to expand and lower the pleat. If you look at this is a size 6 without the full bust adjustment, and the fact that the overlap of the pleat is only 4 centimeters means that there's not going to be that much added space here for the volume of a larger bust. This is for a smaller bust. And also because it goes up to this point, it means that the bust ends by here. For a larger bust, there's both more volume in this direction and more volume in this direction. So we have to pull this point down. So to do that, on pattern piece A, you're going to take your colored marker and you're going to draw a line from the apex point straight down the center of the pleat. Then you're going to draw a line from the apex point to the armhole. So this whole thing is piece A, but I'm going to be cutting along this line and splitting this up into 2 pieces. So we'll call this A1 and this A2. From there, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut along this line. So that cut gives us the opportunity to move this out and expand the pleat. So I'm going to tape this down to some pattern paper and we're going to measure out the correct distance and then go from there. I have A2 taped to the pattern paper. I have A1 still free to move around. and I'm going to measure out distance X, which is the distance that A1 needs to move outward to expand the pleat. And now I can align this edge with this line. I'm making sure that the bottom is still lined up and tape it in place. And then also note, because this armhole has been expanded, you're gonna have to lengthen the G piece, which is the armhole binding, by the same distance X. Next, we're gonna lower the pleat. So originally, the size 14 pleat ends right here. That's the top of the size 14 pleat. But because there's a full bust adjustment and a fuller bust is gonna end a little bit lower, we need to drop this line. So I'm gonna measure out Lena's apex height from the apex down 4 inches. I'm gonna connect the bottom and also draw the midpoint line. So this is Lena's new pleat. Okay, so the next step is to redraw the arm side, or the armhole. So there's the straight part here on the original arm side, and at this zone it starts to curve. What I like to do is pull the curve out at that point, right where the straight zone ends, and kind of gently pull it out. I'm starting with a pencil and I'll refine this, with the goal of it hitting about 1 centimeter shy of this corner. And I can clean it up with this guy and then use my colored marker to make it a little bit more bold. Now, if you want more armpit coverage, you can pull this curve out higher. So, for example, you could pull it out a little bit higher like that and do something like this. So there's a little bit of wiggle room. This is what I'll cut for Lena, and you can see what kind of coverage that gives her. One other thing to note is up here, there's a line that says cut line to raise or lower neckline. I'm not going to manipulate the neckline until I make the toile. If down the line, after I've made the toile, it becomes clear that this neckline feels a little uncomfortably high or low for Lena, I can slice across here and, kind of using the same principles, slice across here and then have this separate pattern piece that can move up or down. The toile will tell us exactly how much this needs to come up or come down on Lena, so we can get that boat neck sitting nice and high but not too high that it's uncomfortable, and still give you that really nice wide neckline. So I can go ahead and cut this thing out. Alright, I'm going to use my new A piece to make Lena's toile. I've got Lena's toile sewn up. I safety pinned on some temporary straps here, and then I am using some jumbo safety pins to act as the loops on the back. Okay, so let's go see if it fits. I'm back at Lena's. She's gonna try on the toile that I just made, and then we're gonna take the measurement needed to fix the armpit gaping that results from adding so much more fabric for a fuller bust. Okay, so you can see that the pleat ends nicely at the base of her bust. The neckline is comfortably high but not hitting her neck. And we have this puckering right here. Piece A and piece B. Here's that seam right there, like that. I'm gonna be taking out this excess fabric in this seam. So how I do that is I'm gonna pinch around the seam, the amount that is needed for this arm to lay flat on her body. Then I'm gonna mark where that pinch starts on each side. And then when I let go, that distance is distance W. So I can measure that here, and it's about 2 inches. So I'm gonna show you how to make that change on the pattern pieces, and then we'll take it out of the toile right here, and so you can see how step I fixes the gaping. So we've determined that Lena's distance W is 2 inches. And we're gonna split that 2 inches across this seam here. So that's 1 inch on each side of the seam. From this edge, I'm gonna mark 1 inch. And on this edge, I'm gonna mark 1 inch. Then I'm going to be redrawing this curve starting at the notch, and the same goes for this side. Start with it blending into the straight edge, and then kind of pull the curve off of that straight edge. Okay, so something like that. And for this one, you also want to pull it off the straight edge. And it takes a little bit of an S shape. So this is blending into the straight edge here, and then this is intersecting the armhole. So I'm gonna cut away these pieces and get my new B and A piece. So just a quick reminder of what it looked like before step J, specifically looking at the gaping in the armpit. And here's the after. Okay, so I have completed step I, which means that I took out 2 inches in the seam between A and B for Lena. And now you can see that there's no more gaping right here. This sits nice and close and snug to her body. The full bust is fitting. The pleats are at the base of the bust. And now I think we're ready to make the final garment. So this fits pretty well on Lena in terms of the height of the neckline. But if the neckline needs to move up, you can slice it across and bring it up. If the neckline needs to move down, you can slice it across and bring it down. So here's Lena in her final Adelphi top. You can see that the neckline is hitting her really nice and comfortably. So it's still a high boat neck, but not cutting into her neck. The bust pleat ends right at the base of her bust. So it's opening up right at the point that the bust needs to expand. If Lena turns, she has a good amount of armpit coverage, but it's not so tight that it's like cutting into her body here in an uncomfortable way. Yeah, I think it looks really nice. And then if Lena can spin around, I have the adjustable straps here for Lena so she can loosen or tighten this. The laced up back sits nice and flat on her body. So yeah, I think it looks really good. And before I wrap up this video, I want to go over a few other adjustments that can be made. So I have my size 6 on. I'm just holding it in the back because I want to demonstrate how a few of these tweaks can make or break the fit of the Adelphi top. So I do not have a full bust, and you can see that the pleat ends right at the base of my bust. So where my bust connects to my torso, that's where the pleat ends. And that's where you want it to end because you want it to bunch together the fabric and then open up to allow for the volume of the bust. But say I had a larger bust or a lower bust. Often when you have a larger bust, it might sit a little bit lower on your body. And so say instead of my bust ending here, it was a few inches lower. So that would push the whole top down to accommodate the added flesh. And so when the whole top moves down on my body, the neckline is now altered to be less of a high boat neck, and also I'm losing coverage in the armpit. And so if you have a lower bust and you want to maintain the high neckline and you want to get good coverage in the armpit, which I'm assuming you do, all you have to do is shorten the length of the pleat. So say instead of the pleat ending here, I allowed it to get a little bit shorter. That means that the whole top can move up on my body to hit where my bust intersects my torso. It means that the armhole is gonna also move up and the neckline is gonna move up. The height of the pleat is gonna inform, based on the height and size of your bust, it's gonna inform how high or low the top sits on your body. So the height of the pleat is a really great way to manipulate the exact height that you want this to sit on your body. Another factor that's going to inform how high or low this sits on your body is the thickness of your neck. So if you have a thicker neck, maybe more flesh, more muscle, whatever. Right now, the Adelphi top sits right here on my body, and that's as high up as it can go without making it uncomfortable on my neck. So if I have added flesh here, it's going to cut into my neck and be uncomfortable. And it'll also likely, again, push the whole top down. So you're gonna lose the coverage in your armpit again, and you're gonna have this uncomfortable neckline cutting into your neck. So both of those scenarios that I just explained can be addressed by manipulating the height of the pleat and the height of the neckline. On the center front of pattern piece A, there is a marker here that is the cut line to raise or lower neckline, and there's a marker corresponding with each size. So if you need to manipulate the height of the neckline, you just draw a line across perpendicular to the center front and cut right here. And then in the same way that we used the pattern paper to expand in this direction, you can do the same thing up here. So if you need to move the neckline up, you assess the distance that you want to move it up on your toile and move it up with the pattern paper behind taped into place. Or if you have a thicker neck and you need to move it down, you can move it down like this. And you'll incorporate the armhole into that change. You'll fold this down or cut it away. So this neckline is free to move up and down. And the same goes for the pleat height. You can raise or lower the pleat based off of how high or low your bust is. And these little manipulations in height are going to get the Adelphi top to sit at the right height on your body. I hope this video helped guide you through the full bust adjustment for the Adelphi top. And if you're still running into issues, definitely DM me on Instagram @sawsews and we can work it out together. Thanks for watching.